Welcome, everybody. Welcome, fellow patriots. Welcome, fellow deplorables. Welcome once again to the Conservative Commandos radio show. I'm Sharron Angle, and he's George Landrith, and we're coming to you from the studios of the Conservative Commandos radio network with a shout-out to our listeners in Jacksonville, Tampa, and the Villages, Florida, Las Vegas and Reno, Nevada, Macon, Georgia, Lancaster and Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Boulder and Colorado Springs, Colorado, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Long Beach, California, and now we're in Alexandria, Virginia, and Washington, D.C., as Rick Trader says. We're everywhere. We are everywhere. And George, welcome to the show. Talk to me a little bit about what's on your radar as far as the news of the day.
Well, I think there's lots of things that are interesting, but maybe I can kick off with one I've just recently written on, which is this whole I promise I didn't use any of them. Opioid crisis. We just had early this week, a major, like $500 million verdict against an American drug manufacturer on the theory that they're responsible for the opioid crisis in America. But we now know that's not true. That's a totally false narrative. And the reason why we know it's not true is a few years back, the president, when he was a brand new president, said it was a crisis. Government agencies cracked down on all of this, and professional organizations also cracked down on it to the point where, in many cases, people who actually needed legitimate pain medication couldn't get it. And so people suffered as a result. That's how tight they got with it, as opposed to being a little too loose with it. And what was interesting is the opioid crisis got exponentially worse. And the reason, of course, is because it was never actually caused by American healthcare providers, and it wasn't caused by American pharmaceutical companies. It was caused by China, who manufactures this stuff called fentanyl, which basically 4 grains of it, a grain would be about the size of a salt grain. So 4 of those can be fatal. And it's really easy to mail. And guess who helps them mail it? The U.S. Postal Service, because they don't scan anything and they're not really aware of what they're mailing. And because it can be mailed in small quantities and yet still be enough to kill 1,000 people in an envelope, imagine 4,000 grains of salt. That fits in an envelope easy, right? And so, anyhow, that's the problem. And yet we're hoping we solve the problem with verdicts like this. And I would just argue, imagine yourself if you went to a doctor with a broken leg and asked for his help, and he told you that he was going to take your appendix out. You'd be like, yeah, never mind. I got to talk to somebody else. You're a kook. And, he's obviously not going to help your problem because he doesn't even understand what the issue is. And I would argue that that's what this jury or this verdict in, I guess it was Oklahoma, is all about. People can feel better and say, oh, good, we're doing something about this problem, except they're basically taking an appendix out of a person who has a broken leg.
Well, and I think we've seen this more, I guess, or maybe we're just more aware of the way that everybody wants to go to court. I know I see on my television all the time trial attorneys wanting you to sue Roundup with them. Now, we know Roundup is not the issue that has caused these cancers to come up. If anybody asks the right questions, they will find out that's not the cause of cancer. And it's the same with this opioid thing. They're not asking the right questions. And people are getting wealthy over this, and hardly the ones that have the issues, but certainly their attorneys have made a killing on it, if you will. And you're an attorney, George, so I know when you agree with me, that's a hard pill to swallow.
Well, yeah, I'm not really very supportive of the of kind of our current legal state, the way it runs, and this whole concept of attorneys churning fees, and it's just, I think that decent attorneys are needed in society. My problem is we have a shortage of decent attorneys, but we have a huge surplus of essentially these kind of self-serving. There's the old joke about there's this guy he was an attorney in a small town, he couldn't make a living. And then all of a sudden, a few years later, he's making, great money. He lives in the biggest house in town. And someone asked him what happened. And he said, "Oh, well, another attorney moved in town." And so, so basically they just, they foment. The point is, attorneys should be solving legal problems. But too many attorneys create legal problems and then pat themselves in the back when it'd be like a fireman who starts fires and then puts them out and then pats himself in the back for doing his job. And I would argue that's my critique of what's wrong with the legal profession in today's world.
Well, and it's just permeating the justice system. It seems like, we have this Supreme Court that we have definitely some Supreme Court justices that need to go. And it looks like, sadly, Judge Ruth Bader Ginsburg is in a fight for her life. And yet, while she's fighting for her life, the vultures are circling. The Democrats are saying, wait a second, don't replace her during an election time. And the Republicans are saying, go ahead. We need to do this. This will be good for Trump. What do you say, George Landrith? I mean, who's right? Is it a good thing, bad thing? Should we be praying that Ruth Bader Ginsburg survives this cancer? What's the deal here?
Well, I disagree with Ruth Bader Ginsburg on virtually every important legal issue that's out there. But at the same time, I have a very difficult time hoping that someone dies and suffers from cancer. I was really appalled, and I don't always agree. In fact, I often don't agree with David Koch. There's issues on which he and I don't agree at all. There's other issues we agree completely on. But I was appalled when I heard people talk about how they hope he died in pain, how they couldn't wait for he and his brother to be reunited. And things like this. This is sort of like glee. I have never understood. I have people who have treated me really shabbily. I actually have some former employees who stole money from me, in an earlier, career. I don't trust them. I don't really like them, but I don't even wish upon them that sort of suffering, or it's just, I don't see any point in that. It just doesn't make sense to me. So I'm not going to get involved in wishing ill upon her. But when the time comes and God will decide what day is her appointed day, obviously she should be replaced because that's how we do things. And if it happens to be, 2 weeks before an election, it's not going to happen anyhow because it doesn't move that fast. But if it happens 9 months to a year before the election, it can happen. There's no reason why it couldn't. I guess it's called the Biden rule. The Biden rule is that if a different party from the president controls the Senate and it's in an election year, then you don't do it. But that's not the rule when the party and the Senate are the same party. And so I'm perfectly comfortable with that. And that's what they would do, quite frankly. They can say they wouldn't, but they're lying, as they almost always are. How do you know? Because their mouth is moving. But at any rate, but bottom line is, to me, a more conservative Supreme Court that's focused more on the document of our founding, the Constitution, and what it means, as opposed to trying to use the court as a way to formulate modern public policy that gets around Congress, that gets around the appointed methodologies where the people are sovereign because their representatives who are elected are making the law, would be a good thing. So, I'm not going to dance anyone's grave, but I do think having a court that respects the Constitution more is a move in the right direction.
Well, this David Axelrod, who is the senior advisor to President Barack Obama, tweeted, "If there is a SCOTUS vacancy next year and a Senate Majority Leader carries through on his extraordinary promise to fill it, despite his own previous precedent in blocking Garland, it will tear the country apart." What do you think? Is that true? Will it tear the country apart?
I doubt it will tear the country apart. I think what you will see is there'll be some people upset by it, but I don't see the idea that there was a precedent set, but that's not true. The precedent is that when you have opposing parties in the White House and the Senate, they're not going to cooperate in an election year. Yeah, okay, it's fine. That's not the case here, so it's not a precedent. They can pretend it is, but it's not. But bottom line is, I think that lots of liberals don't care that much the Supreme Court, partly because they understand a conservative court is not going to impose conservatism. A conservative court simply will make sure the Constitution is abided by. That's why sometimes we don't always like the Supreme Court decisions, because they'll say, well, this is really Congress's call. I don't like how they did it, but it's they have the option of doing it that way. Sometimes, Scalia sometimes wrote opinions where he was right, but I didn't like the solution because it meant Congress got to do the stupid thing they wanted to do. And he said a good judge doesn't always like his own decisions, because he is not a legislator. A good legislator should always like his legislation. A good judge should not always like his decisions, because he doesn't actually get to determine the outcome. He just gets to determine if the Constitution has been followed or not. So to me, lots of Americans who are liberals will kind of go, yeah, I don't care that much, because I don't see a conservative court as changing politics. I see it as just making sure we have the rule of law. And who can't like the rule of law?
And who can't like that judges would not be legislating from the bench their own opinions, just upholding what the rule of law is. We are coming to you from the Conservative Commandos Radio Network studios and around the world on the internet with TalkStream Live, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, American Political Radio, Leading Edge Radio Network, and AM/FM 24/7. And now you can watch us on the AUN TV network in Northern California. I'm Sharron Angle with my co-host George Landrith, and we'll be right back after these messages.
Have you been leasing a property for your business or renting storage space? Are you tired of paying rent year after year? Call the experts at General Steel to own a building at up to 30% off now.
I'd been renting a building and paying someone else's mortgage, but General Steel showed me how I could own a space tailored to the needs of my business and for less than renting.
Call General Steel now at the number on your screen for our current building specials and to price your metal building system today.
My building's the dream I've had since finishing my house 14 years ago. I've been using it for a garage, workshop, and storage area for my tools and equipment, and I can't believe how great it turned out.
The economy is improving and the price of steel is expected to rise. Stop waiting. It could cost you thousands. Call General Steel now to see how you can own for less than you thought. Stop waiting to start your business or expand your operation. Call General Steel now.
Call 877-484-7002.
Everybody wants cheap airfare, but where do you find it? You call low-cost airlines. Their prices are direct from the airlines, and they're so low you can't find these fares published anywhere. They specialize in cheap flights, discount hotel rooms, cheap car rental rates, and great package deals anywhere around the world. Wherever you want to go, they can help you get there cheaply and with a best price guarantee. If you want the lowest prices on your airline tickets or other travel services, call now. That's right, call. That's the only way to get these rates. Experts are standing by 24/7 to get you the cheapest airfare and hotel rates available. So don't wait. Call right now for the lowest travel prices anywhere and for great last-minute travel deals too.
Call 888-431-0562. That's 888-431-0562. 888-431-0562. 888-431-0562.
Friend, do you remember when it felt good to withdraw your cash from the bank to expand a business, go on vacation, or buy a new car? Well, today, withdrawing your own cash has become a very risky business, according to The Secret War, a shocking new research report. I just read it. And folks, I was amazed to learn why banks are now required to spy on us for the government and then report any suspicious or unusual behavior. I suggest you get The Secret War free. Just call the number on the screen, no charge, from the folks at Swiss America. And get this, did you know simply spending cash today may be enough to have you branded as a potential criminal? That's right. The new war on cash is really a war against all freedom-loving Americans. The Secret War is yours free, so call the number on the screen and you can tell them Pat Boone gave you the number.
AM/FM 24/7 Roku channel broadcasts all of our shows on demand. To ensure reliability, we store and stream our content on the same servers as Netflix and Amazon. Our Roku channel is free to use, and anyone owning one of the more than 10 million Roku devices can watch our channel at no cost whatsoever. If you have a television show or are thinking about producing a show, you can be a part of AM/FM 24/7's Roku channel. Watch our great shows on your Roku device. It's free and more reliable than cable TV. Are you stuck with a timeshare? Did you attend the presentation and were seduced and enticed into buying that great vacation and investment? Now you're in the terrible position of trying to figure out a way to get out of that mess. You're not alone. For over 15 years, BuyYourTimeshare.com has been helping people like yourself get out of timeshare ownership. The fact is, there is no resale market. Unscrupulous telemarketers call you and say they have buyers waiting, and the next thing that happens is you give them hundreds of dollars for an ad, and you'll never hear from them again. Another fact is that an identical timeshare to yours is being offered on eBay for $1, and no one is buying it. If you want out of your timeshare, I urge you to go to buyyourtimeshare.com or call them at 877-94-HELP-ME. That number again is 877-94-HELP-ME. Buyyourtimeshare.com. That's buyyourtimeshare.com. 877-94-HELP-ME.
Dish TV is better than cable TV. Here's why. Dish has the nation's lowest TV price, along with an award-winning DVR that can skip commercials, record 8 shows at once, and get access to thousands of movies at your fingertips. Cable simply can't even compare. So the smart choice is to cut the cable and get Dish. Plus, you get all these great TV features, free HD DVR upgrade, free installation, and free movie channels. Say goodbye to cable and get more with Dish TV. 877-290-7764, 877-290-7764. As an added bonus, you can switch to Dish now and receive a $50 Visa gift card. So call now and get Dish TV. Call 877-290-7764, 877-290-7764. That's 877-290-7764. Limited time offer, 24-month commitment and credit qualification required. Cancellation fee, monthly equipment fees, and other restrictions apply. Promotion can change at any time.
Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos radio show. And if you'd like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show, please check out our website, CCRshow.com. CCRshow.com. If you have a guest you'd like to have us interview here at Conservative Commandos radio show, send us an email. Rick, R-I-C-K, that's Rick Trader's email address, Rick at Conservative Commandos Radio Show. Rick at Conservative Commandos Radio Show. And also, please like us, friend us, and follow us on Facebook and on Twitter. And George, we have 3 great guests on the show today. Would you talk to us a little bit about who they are?
Absolutely. Well, first we're going to have Trey Kovacs on the show. Now, Trey has been with the Competitive Enterprise Institute, and he specializes really in looking at what unions are doing and keeping an eye on them. He's kind of a union watchdog. And I think it'll be a very interesting conversation because while certainly unions have a right to exist, because we all have a right of freedom of association, it's what allows you and I to get on the radio show together. It's what allows people to tune in and listen, and we can become a community of conservative commandos. But the problem is the left wants legislation that makes people join unions, that forces them to pay union dues even though they don't want to be. So maybe we should get Congress, these same people that want to make people be members of unions, make them listen to our show. Force them to. It's just, I'm saying that facetiously because I don't support that, but that's kind of the agenda. So yeah, I think there'll be an interesting conversation with Trey. And then next we have Jeff Crouere. Now, Jeff is from New Orleans. He's very involved in the media and politics. He's got a show down there, Ringside Politics. He's got a YouTube channel. You can search for that under his name, Jeff Crouere, Crouere. But he's written a really interesting article that we'll want to talk to him about, which is about what's going on in San Francisco. And, I'll bring this up with him, but I can remember San Francisco was a beautiful, wonderful, thriving city that was just, fantastic to visit. And my understanding is now if you go, you should wear rubber galoshes. Don't wear your good shoes because you'll be, wading through human feces on the sidewalks and other such things, and kind of what's happening to this place. So it should be a good conversation, but I do think it's a reminder of what happens when you let liberals be in charge. That's what happens. So, and then our final guest is going to be John O'Connor, and he's an attorney, and again in the San Francisco area. We're not going to talk to him about feces in the streets, though. He's got a new book out. Just so people know, he actually represented, though, in his career, in addition to being a U.S. attorney, he represented Mark Felt. And for those of you who don't remember Mark Felt's name, he was Deep Throat in the Watergate saga of the early 1970s. And he's written a book called Postgate. And in that book, he talks about how Watergate is a lot like the Russiagate. But don't worry, it's not the way that CNN has said it. CNN always tells us that, Russiagate's even worse than Watergate. Oh, my gosh. What he points out is that while we think of Watergate as a shining example of journalistic integrity, there are lots of things that the Washington Post did to shade the story and to lie to us and to divert our attention from certain factors so we'd only focus on the ones they wanted us to focus on. And his point is, if we haven't seen that in Russiagate, then we've not been paying attention. So that's the analogy that he makes. I think it'll be very interesting to talk to him about it. Should be a great book. It's coming out very soon. You can pre-order it now. And so we want to talk to him about that book. But I think it'll be a great conversation as well.
I do too. I'm looking forward to it. There is something in the news that I wanted to get your take on. And it's at least 6 states have named climate change czars, and I'm going to name those 6 states for you. They are North Carolina, Florida, Colorado, Oregon, New Jersey, Virginia, and Rhode Island. And they're mostly Democrat states, which shouldn't surprise us at all. However, Florida is Governor Ron DeSantis.
Yeah.
And
one of these things is not like the other.
Right. He is a Republican who enjoyed major support from President Donald Trump in 2018 and appointed now a former deputy energy secretary to be his climate change czar. And they're it's just amazing to me, first, that a Republican would go there, and secondly, that Florida is now blaming climate change for the hurricanes that happen. I thought hurricanes happened. If you live in Florida and North Carolina, hurricanes happen.
Oh, yeah. They only started in the 1980s when it started getting warmer. That's when they started. There were none before then, Right. There was it didn't used to be warm in the summer, for example, and we didn't ever have bad weather. This is all modern. It used to be. It was always kind of like Hawaii, perfectly just very temperate. I'm sure you can remember back in the day, in Nevada, back when it used to be, it was always nice weather, and all of a sudden now it's gotten hotter, right? Yeah. Yeah. So, for example, here in Virginia this week, it was unseasonably cool. It would get down into the 60s this past week. It's August. Usually August is in the 90s. So it's about 30 degrees cooler than normal. I got news for folks. That's not climate change. It's not any of that. It happens sometimes. It just doesn't happen very often. About every 3 or 4 years, we'll get a cool week in August, and it's awesome. You don't need your air conditioning. It feels great, but and sometimes you'll have weeks that are hotter than you know what. And, but anyhow, I'm frustrated at the whole debate because the fact of the matter is the climate changes all the time and always has. We've had ice ages. We've had warm ages. We've had ice ages again and warm ages again. And none of that was caused by SUVs or electric power plants or yuppies driving,
or cows.
Exactly. Cows and flatulence. It's my understanding from talking with astrophysicists is that the sun's intensity is not always the same. We think of the sun as this big fireball in the sky that burns at the same intensity all the time. But in fact, as I've been told, it doesn't. It burns, it has a variation. And so it can make the earth warmer or cooler depending on what it's doing. and it does different things at different times. And of course, there's other complex things like El Niños and La Niñas and so forth that also have to be factored into these different cycles. But there's these 10 or 15 different natural cycles that all lay over top of each other and give you different effects at different times. And all of a sudden now, though, while these changes occurred thousands of years ago, this time it's your fault. Yes. It's that AC you're running. It's that car you drive. And, all the other times that happened, it wasn't your fault, obviously. But now it is. And it's like, I'm sorry, that's not really very scientific. And so my problem with it is not that there's climate change, because I think there obviously is. The question is, why is there climate change? And I don't think there's a very good argument that it's caused by CO2, because every time in the past when the climate went up, the heat went up, it was a lagging indicator. In other words, it predated more CO2. And now cause effect implies at least one thing: sequence, meaning the cause happens first. In other words, more CO2. Then the temperature should go up, right? Well, that's not what it did. The temperature went up, and then the CO2 went up later. That's how it's always worked in the past. And so I just find this whole kind of conversation not very science-based. It's always based on models.
And I think it's politics-based, and that they have dragged one of our Republicans who should know better into this politically correct place. It was astonishing to me that they could pull somebody over from Florida, because previously Rick Scott's administration had deleted the words climate change from all state documents, and the employees claimed that they were forbidden from even using the term. Now Scott's a U.S. Senator out of Florida, and this Governor DeSantis, who comes in on Trump's coattails, is now spouting this politically correct stuff. I just, politics trumps fact, it seems like, and it trumps science.
Yeah. How you feel about it is more important than facts. Mm-hmm. How do you feel about it is the question on the left. Facts don't matter. What do you feel inside?
But that they would suck some of our guys in, I guess it's just a warning to all of us that no one is immune to this pressure that's being applied politically. And look in your own state, see what's going on there. Are there people that are just caving in to the political correctness of the day? We are coming to you from the Conservative Commandos Radio Network studios. I'm Sharron Angle. He's George Landrith. We'll be right back after these messages with our first guest. And if you'd like to have a rebroadcast of today's show, please check out our website, CCRshow.com, CCRshow.com, or friend us, follow us, and like us on Facebook and Twitter. We'll be right back after these messages.
Have you been leasing a property for your business or renting storage space? Are you tired of paying rent year after year? Call the experts at General Steel to own a building at up to 30% off now.
I'd been renting a building and paying someone else's mortgage, but General Steel showed me how I could own a space tailored to the needs of my business and for less than renting.
Call General Steel now at the number on your screen for our current building specials and to price your metal building system today.
My building's the dream I've had since finishing my house 14 years ago. I've been using it for a garage, workshop, and storage area for my tools and equipment, and I can't believe how great it turned out.
The economy is improving and the price of steel is expected to rise. Stop waiting. It could cost you thousands. Call General Steel now to see how you can own for less than you thought. Stop waiting to start your business or expand your operation. Call General Steel now.
Call 877-484-7002.
Everybody wants cheap airfare, but where do you find it? You call low-cost airlines. Their prices are direct from the airlines, and they're so low you can't find these fares published anywhere. They specialize in cheap flights, discount hotel rooms, cheap car rental rates, and great package deals anywhere around the world. Wherever you want to go, they can help you get there cheaply and with a best price guarantee. If you want the lowest prices on your airline tickets or other travel services, call now. That's right, call. That's the only way to get these rates. Experts are standing by 24/7 to get you the cheapest airfare and hotel rates available. So don't wait. Call right now for the lowest travel prices anywhere and for great last-minute travel deals too.
Call 888-431-0562. That's 888-431-0562. 888-431-0562. 888-431-0562.
Friend, do you remember when it felt good to withdraw your cash from the bank to expand a business, go on vacation, or buy a new car? Well, today, withdrawing your own cash has become a very risky business, according to The Secret War, a shocking new research report. I just read it. And folks, I was amazed to learn why banks are now required to spy on us for the government and then report any suspicious or unusual behavior. I suggest you get The Secret War free. Just call the number on the screen, no charge, from the folks at Swiss America. And get this, did you know simply spending cash today may be enough to have you branded as a potential criminal? That's right. The new war on cash is really a war against all freedom-loving Americans. The Secret War is yours free, so call the number on the screen and you can tell them Pat Boone gave you the number.
Welcome back, listeners. Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos radio show. I'm Sharron Angle here with my co-host, George Landrith. And we do have our next guest ready. George, will you introduce him?
Absolutely. I'm very happy to do that. We have with us Trey Kovacs. He is a policy analyst at the Competitive Enterprise Institute. For those that may not be aware, you can find them at CEI.org. They're a great organization, really do a lot of great things. But Trey has spent the last 5 years researching the adverse effects of public sector unions on workplace choice and the economy, worker freedom, private sector, labor relations, and other, essentially, if you will, the kind of labor law reforms that are needed. I think, a lot of us probably, when I was a kid growing up, my assumption was, or I was, you always were told by the popular media that unions are there for the little guy. And I suspect I've learned later in life, once I got more informed, that isn't always the case. And I think Trey will have some good information for us on that. But you see Trey's work in the Wall Street Journal, the Washington Post, the Washington Times, U.S. News and Report, The Hill, many, many other places. He's everywhere. And of course, he's a major contributor to CEI's open market blog. But anyhow, he's written a great article, and we want to get into that. So Trey, first, welcome back to the Conservative Commandos. Great to have you with us.
Oh, thanks so much for having me.
You've written an article about there's a new act coming out, or Nancy Pelosi and her friends are never at a shortage for bad ideas, and they have this one that they've named Protecting the Right to Organize Act. I wish that truth in labeling applied to legislation, but they make it sound like they're protecting the right to organize. The reality is everyone has the right to organize. Under the Second Amendment, you have a freedom of association, not Second Amendment, under the Bill of Rights, under the Constitution, you have the freedom of association. And so they're not passing laws to give the workers the freedom of association. They have some other agenda. So let's talk about that. What is their agenda?
Yeah, so you could actually call this bill Force All Workers to Join and Pay for Union Representation. That's really the gist of this bill. It's basically to coerce everyone into a union, even if they don't want to. That's basically what's going on here.
Now, is there a track record for doing that? Because I remember hearing stories about them trying to force family members that were caring for, ill family members, force them into unions because they got some sort of, help from the government to help that process of taking care of them. And so they viewed that as pay, and they wanted the government to force them to pay the union a portion of that.
Yeah,
am I right about that?
Yeah, this is unions have a long-running history of trying to force anyone they can to pay them dues. And what you're talking about is parents of sick children or children taking care of elderly people skimming from Medicaid payments that they receive. Fortunately, the Trump administration has issued a rule that ends that practice and forces Medicaid dollars to go to the actual people who are caring for those recipients of Medicaid. So fortunately, one scheme to force people to pay dues has been ended just recently.
Well, that might explain why they're trying to do this, because after all, the unions they're probably in a panic trying to find more places they can skim money from. And since that dastardly Trump administration prevented them from stealing it from family members of people who are, disabled or otherwise sick, now they need to find someone else to steal it from. So they've gone to Nancy Pelosi and asked her to promote this Protecting the Right to Organize Act of 2019. So let's just talk a little more about it. Tell us kind of what some of its, problems are. I realize it's probably from start to finish bad idea, but let's just talk about what they are.
Yeah, so it's a union wish list bill. One of the worst provisions is that the legislation would effectively repeal all state right-to-work laws. And so basically what those laws do is allow non-members who don't want union representation to opt out of paying dues. And this would wipe them all away. And really, even though unions view right-to-work laws as really anti-union, they're really a compromise. How union organizing works, when a union's certified as a representative of workers, they represent everyone. So they have a monopoly on the workforce. So even workers who voted against the union, they have to work under a union contract. All right-to-work laws do is say, okay, so since you're forced to be represented by a union, even though you don't want it, we'll let you opt out. And also solves another problem from this exclusive representation is less than 10% of private sector workers ever voted for the union that actually represents them. They were all chosen by past employees. So most union organizing happened decades ago, but unions never stand for re-election. So basically, workers all inherit the union that represents them. They never had a choice about it. And with this legislation, if it were to pass, not only would they not have a choice in choosing the union, they'd also be forced to pay for it.
So this would almost be like if my great-grandfather voted for FDR. I'm stuck with FDR as my president now, kind of a thing. I know he's dead, but let's pretend that he's not. It's just like a previous generation, effectively. In some cases, more than a generation ago. We don't, in a society where we value choice, bind people. We don't even do that in Congress. Heck, every 2 years we get to revote because we may not like the way they're doing the job. And accountability suggests that more frequent elections help keep the people that we've elected to represent us a little more attuned to what we want. And, so this idea that, this is the same deal that, the Chinese president for life has. Get elected once and you're in.
Yeah, and that's what you've seen the UAW organize, the Ford Motor Company, in the late 1950s. So no one who voted in the UAW is still there. So every single worker who works for Ford is represented by the UAW, and they never voted for them. And especially with the huge corruption scandal where the FBI and the IRS raided the current president of the UAW and the former president of the UAW for a corruption scheme where they were stealing millions of dollars out of a worker training fund, you would think that they should be able to hold these union officials accountable, but they're very limited in what they can do to oust this representation that they never voted for.
Yeah, it's interesting. So, the idea that people should have choices and not be compelled to do things, it's like this some sort of nanny state. Like, if you're an employee, you work at some place, you're obviously too stupid to, get a decent pay or get, time off for a vacation. So we're going to force you to pay money to these corrupt people who will make sure you get all this stuff.
Yeah, and I think that's a really salient point. How Democrats kind of view labor relations is that they think workers are too dumb and that they don't realize how great unions are. The fact of the matter is workers aren't organizing because they don't value their services. So I think that's a huge problem with kind of the narrative around labor relations, is that, you know, unions are put on a pedestal and workers need them. And if they don't voluntarily choose them, they should be forced upon workers.
Right. You can have any choice you want as long as you make the choice that we dictate you should make. Yeah, that's great. Well, if I'm right, Sharron, we're getting up on the break, aren't we?
Pretty close.
Fair enough. Well, Trey, I'm glad you're with us, and I'm glad you can stick around for the second segment, because I know that Sharron will have a lot more questions. There's a lot more to talk about when you're talking about the sorts of mischief that unions can cause and perform. But I do want to remind our listeners, you are listening to Conservative Commandos. I'm George Landrith. She is Sharron Angle, and we are coming to you from the Conservative Commandos radio network, which is broadcast all across this great nation, as well as the AUN TV network. And of course, we are always carried around the world, with the possible exception of China and North Korea and Iran, on Al Gore's amazing internet. So don't go away. Sharron and I and Trey will be right back.
AM/FM 24/7 Roku channel broadcasts all of our shows on demand. To ensure reliability, we store and stream our content on the same servers as Netflix and Amazon. Our Roku channel is free to use, and anyone owning one of the more than 10 million Roku devices can watch our channel at no cost whatsoever. If you have a television show or are thinking about producing a show, you can be a part of AM/FM 24/7's Roku channel. Watch our great shows on your Roku device. It's free and more reliable than cable TV. Are you stuck with a timeshare? Did you attend the presentation and were seduced and enticed into buying that great vacation and investment? Now you're in the terrible position of trying to figure out a way to get out of that mess. You're not alone. For over 15 years, BuyYourTimeshare.com has been helping people like yourself get out of timeshare ownership. The fact is, there is no resale market. Unscrupulous telemarketers call you and say they have buyers waiting, and the next thing that happens is you give them hundreds of dollars for an ad, and you'll never hear from them again. Another fact is that an identical timeshare to yours is being offered on eBay for $1, and no one is buying it. If you want out of your timeshare, I urge you to go to BuyYourTimeshare.com or call them at 877-94-HELP-ME. That number again is 877-94-HELP-ME. BuyYourTimeshare.com. That's BuyYourTimeshare.com. 877-94-HELP-ME.
Dish TV is better than cable TV. Here's why. Dish has the nation's lowest TV price, along with an award-winning DVR that can skip commercials, record 8 shows at once, and get access to thousands of movies at your fingertips. Cable simply can't even compare. So the smart choice is to cut the cable and get Dish. Plus, you get all these great TV features, free HD DVR upgrade, free installation, and free movie channels. Say goodbye to cable and get more with Dish TV. 877-290-7764, 877-290-7764. As an added bonus, you can switch to Dish now and receive a $50 Visa gift card. So call now and get Dish TV. Call 877-290-7764, 877-290-7764. That's 877-290-7764. Limited time offer, 24-month commitment and credit qualification required. Cancellation fee, monthly equipment fees, and other restrictions apply. Promotion can change at any time.
Welcome back, listeners. Thanks for staying with us through that break. I'm Sharron Angle. I'm here with my co-host, George Landrith, and our guest, Trey Kovacs, who is a policy analyst at the Conservative Enterprise Institute. He spent the last 5 years researching the adverse effects of public sector unions on workplace choice and the economy, worker freedom, private sector labor relations, and other labor policy reforms. If you would like to hear a rebroadcast of our shows, just go to our website, ccrshow.com, ccrshow.com. Thank you so much, Trey, for staying through that break with us. And I do have questions.
Oh, great.
The first one is, in your article, you said that this bill will actually put workers' private information at risk? How does that happen? How can they? I mean, we've got HIPAA, we've got all kinds of things that are supposed to protect us, and yet they're going to do what? How do they put the workers' information at risk?
Yeah, so what the PRO Act does is that when a union seeks to organize a group of workers, they would require the employer to hand over the home address, the phone number, the email address, the work schedules of all of the employees they're trying to organize to the union. And it's amazing that they would continue trying to push this policy. One, like you said, where privacy is a huge issue in today's world and everyone values their privacy. But the Obama administration's National Labor Relations Board, which governs private sector labor relations, issued a rule that did just this. And in a follow-up memo after they issued the rule, the Obama NLRB realized that this information could be used to sell to telemarketers, and it could be used to harass and intimidate and coerce workers into joining a union. So when even the Obama administration agrees that this is a bad idea, it's surprising that Democrats in Congress now are again pushing the idea.
Well, the second thing that you put down, it requires workers to pay dues to the union as a condition of their employment. This is not just, I want a job and I can join the union or not. This is a condition of employment.
Absolutely. And as you see in union constitutions where laws exist where everyone is forced to pay dues, they will seek to get you fired if you don't pay dues, even if you're not a member. So it's a really egregious position, and especially since 27 states have passed these right-to-work laws. Some of the laws are even in the state constitutions and have been there since 1940s, and in one fell swoop, the federal government's got to come in and say, all these laws are invalid. Too bad.
Too bad. Well, and it's too bad for the worker, too. If you fall on hard times, you better pay your union dues before you pay your doctor bills. It sounds like it's really something. The last one that I thought was just most egregious and very freedom undermining. It says, promote card check organizing, a process that forces union representation on workers without a secret ballot election. So you talked about elections with George in the first half, but it sounds like it doesn't matter if you have an election, they're going to know how you vote. Well,
and the funniest part about pushing this provision is that a number of House Democrats recently sent a letter to President Trump demanding that Mexican workers get a secret ballot election and use union organizing campaigns. But for American workers, the secret ballot election isn't any good, and they don't need it. So it is bewildering, and it's kind of a backdoor card check, because what would happen is, first, the NLRB would conduct a secret ballot election. But if the union files any unfair labor practice that the employer can't prove didn't happen, then they throw out the results of the secret ballot election, and for a year, the union has the opportunity to get 50% plus one of the workers to sign these cards, and then they get to represent the workforce.
Wow. Wow. Well, you know, we've been watching this election cycle go, and it looks like pay to play here. It looks like it's paybacks to the folks that did you the favors. And this Representative Frederica Wilson, who put this bill forward, that's kind of what it looks like to me, because it says that one of her reasons for putting it forward is that membership dues are down, and membership itself is down to historic lows. So she's trying to boost their membership, which of course brings a quid pro quo, if you would, into the election cycle. What do you think about that?
Oh, that's absolutely the case. Basically, during the Obama administration, the NLRB overturned a collective 4,000 plus years of precedent, all in favor of labor unions. And they still couldn't boost up membership numbers. And so basically what unions have decided, and Democrats in Congress are very willing to go along with it, is that we need to codify all of these rules that the Obama NLRB put forth, plus more. And as you can see as well, AFL-CIO spends $10 million more on politics than actually representing the workers. So this is, a clear quid pro quo and basically just payback for all the money that labor unions funnel into the elections every cycle.
Well, I like that all of your statements in this article are footnoted. You didn't just think these up off the top of your head. I'm going to read this one statement to you and have you comment on it. It says, labor unions have chosen to use their political influence to urge Congress and regulators to overhaul labor laws and rules in order to ease union organizing at the expense of workers' freedom of association, as shown from financial disclosure reports submitted to the Department of Labor. The AFL-CIO, the nation's largest federation of labor unions, regularly spends significantly more on politics and lobbying than on representational services.
Yeah, and I think this is the problem with unions. They want to use force rather than offer services that workers want. And I think unions certainly are legitimate organizations that serve a function to protect the interests of workers. But forcing everyone to pay for a union that they don't want, using sneaky tactics to end up representing workers, that's not what workers want. And every election cycle, you see that about 40%, 30 to 40% of union workers are Republicans. So when over 90% of all unions' political funding goes to Democrats. So one, you have to change that. If 30 to 40% of your membership is conservative, why are you giving, over 90% to one party over the next? And then two, stop getting into politics. Workers want someone to protect their rights at the workplace, but also to offer training, to offer plans on how they can advance in the workplace. And unions really have stopped doing any of the training and offering services for employees to advance their careers. And I think if they would focus on that, then people would voluntarily pay. Just like every trade association, they can't force every business in the world to pay dues and join their organization. Unions shouldn't either.
That's right. The next statement I thought was incredible because I didn't realize this was the case. Overall union membership dropped to 10.5% of workers and 6.4% in the private sector. So I thought union membership was a whole lot bigger than that. Yeah,
and what you've seen is a decades-long decline in union membership. Since the highs in the 1950s, it's been a straight spiral down. And the only thing kind of picking up those numbers is public employee union membership has risen. And that's only because, public sector workers at the state and local level couldn't organize until the 50s or 60s. And then, as we talked about in the previous segment, they're now considering people who are taking care of their kids or grandparents and receiving Medicaid, they're considered quasi-public employees. So then you add those people to the membership rolls. That's the only thing, kind of these tricks that they're pulling are the only reason union membership isn't even lower than the all-time lows that they're currently at.
Well, I guess the reason that I thought membership was higher was because the teachers union seems to be the big member union. It seems like you can't be a teacher without joining that union.
Well, I mean, across the country, certainly teachers unions have immense influence, but it's mainly in, urban centers and really blue states because, they basically own the state legislatures. They pass laws like this PRO Act to basically force workers into unions, and they have, every teacher, when they're first hired, will have to spend a couple of hours in a union orientation where it's been reported that they basically lie and deceive to workers in those meetings about what union membership is and whether or not they'll be forced to pay for it.
Well, we are right up against a hard break again, but we want to give you a chance to let our listeners know how they can read these articles that you've written. Like I said, well footnoted, well documented. This is not off the top of your head, and unlike our counterparts, they don't make up the facts as they go. Would you tell our listeners how they can follow you, get in touch with you, also read your articles?
Yeah, so to read all my articles, you can go to cei.org, and to follow me personally, you can reach me on Twitter at Trey Kovacs CEI.
Thank you so much, Trey Kovacs, for being our guest here on Conservative Commandos radio show. Take care and God bless.
Oh, well, thanks so much for having me.
We are coming to you from the Conservative Commandos Radio Network studios and around the world on the internet with TalkStream Live, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, American Political Radio, Leading Edge Radio Network, and AM/FM 24/7. And now you can watch us on the AUN TV network in Northern California. I'm Sharron Angle here with my co-host George Landrith, and we'll be right back after these messages.
Everybody wants cheap airfare, but where do you find it? You call low-cost airlines. Their prices are direct from the airlines, and they're so low you can't find these fares published anywhere. They specialize in cheap flights, discount hotel rooms, cheap car rental rates, and great package deals anywhere around the world. Wherever you want to go, they can help you get there cheaply and with a best price guarantee. If you want the lowest prices on your airline tickets or other travel services, call now. That's right, call. That's the only way to get these rates. Experts are standing by 24/7 to get you the cheapest airfare and hotel rates available. So don't wait. Call right now for the lowest travel prices anywhere and for great last-minute travel deals too.
Call 888-431-0562. That's 888-431-0562. 888-431-0562. 888-431-0562.
Friend, do you remember when it felt good to withdraw your cash from the bank to expand a business, go on vacation, or buy a new car? Well, today, withdrawing your own cash has become a very risky business, according to The Secret War, a shocking new research report. I just read it. And folks, I was amazed to learn why banks are now required to spy on us for the government and then report any suspicious or unusual behavior. I suggest you get The Secret War free. Just call the number on the screen, no charge, from the folks at Swiss America. And get this, did you know simply spending cash today may be enough to have you branded as a potential criminal? That's right. The new war on cash is really a war against all freedom-loving Americans. The Secret War is yours free, so call the number on the screen and you can tell them Pat Boone gave you the number.
AM/FM 24/7 Roku channel broadcasts all of our shows on demand. To ensure reliability, we store and stream our content on the same servers as Netflix and Amazon. Our Roku channel is free to use, and anyone owning one of the more than 10 million Roku devices can watch our channel at no cost whatsoever. If you have a television show or are thinking about producing a show, you can be a part of AM/FM 24/7's Roku channel. Watch our great shows on your Roku device. It's free and more reliable than cable TV. Are you stuck with a timeshare? Did you attend the presentation and were seduced and enticed into buying that great vacation and investment? Now you're in the terrible position of trying to figure out a way to get out of that mess. You're not alone. For over 15 years, BuyYourTimeshare.com has been helping people like yourself get out of timeshare ownership. The fact is, there is no resale market. Unscrupulous telemarketers call you and say they have buyers waiting, and the next thing that happens is you give them hundreds of dollars for an ad, and you'll never hear from them again. Another fact is that an identical timeshare to yours is being offered on eBay for $1, and no one is buying it. If you want out of your timeshare, I urge you to go to BuyYourTimeshare.com or call them at 877-94-HELP-ME. That number again is 877-94-HELP-ME. Buyyourtimeshare.com. That's buyyourtimeshare.com. 877-94-HELP-ME.
Dish TV is better than cable TV. Here's why. Dish has the nation's lowest TV price, along with an award-winning DVR that can skip commercials, record 8 shows at once, and get access to thousands of movies at your fingertips. Cable simply can't even compare. So the smart choice is to cut the cable and get Dish. Plus, you get all these great TV features, free HD DVR upgrade, free installation, and free movie channels. Say goodbye to cable and get more with Dish TV. 877-290-7764, 877-290-7764. As an added bonus, you can switch to Dish now and receive a $50 Visa gift card. So call now and get Dish TV. Call 877-290-7764, 877-290-7764. That's 877-290-7764. Limited time offer, 24-month commitment and credit qualification required. Cancellation fee, monthly equipment fees, and other restrictions apply. Promotion can change at any time.
Welcome back, everyone, to Conservative Commandos Radio Show. I'm Sharron Angle with my co-host, George Landrith, and we're coming to you from the studios of the Conservative Commandos Radio Show with a shout-out to our listeners in Jacksonville, Tampa, and the villages Florida, Las Vegas, and Reno, Nevada, Macon, Georgia, Lancaster, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Boulder, and Colorado Springs, Colorado, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Long Beach, and now we are in Alexandria, Virginia, and Washington, D.C. As Rick Trader says, we're everywhere, we are everywhere. And George, we have our next guest with us. Would you introduce him?
Absolutely. We have with us Jeff Crouere. He's a native from New Orleans. He's got an award-winning program there, Ringside Politics, and he's also, you can catch that locally in the area. And of course, he's a political columnist. He's an author. He has written America's Last Chance, and that provides essentially regular commentaries that you can Also, he has a YouTube channel that you should check out. So anyhow, Jeff's always a great guest. So with that, Jeff, welcome back to the Conservative Commandos.
Thank you, George and Sharron. Thank y'all.
Absolutely. We wanted to have you on. You've written a really interesting article about San Francisco and what it's doing and kind of what's happened. And perhaps before we jump into that, I can just say, I remember when I was younger in my career, I worked for a law firm, and its main office was in San Francisco. And when we would go there I wasn't at that main office. I was in a different, law office of the firm. But when there were occasions where I needed to travel to San Francisco, it was always a very beautiful, nice city. And the things I see and hear about would be unimaginable based on what I saw 20-some years ago. And so it's hard for me to imagine that once a great city has become essentially almost like this third world slum. But anyhow, so why don't you fill us on what they're doing and then what the problem is?
I think you're so right, George, and what it shows to me is the perils of liberal leadership in a city that should be one of the world's gems has really deteriorated into a hellhole. And after that column that I wrote, it got a lot of national attention. I heard from all kinds of people from San Francisco, a lot of them saying, thank you for writing this about our city, because this is exactly what we face. I heard stories from people trying to get to work, and you'd have the homeless throwing feces at them as they're trying to get into the office building. A woman who would carry around a box of rats and release them in front of the office building and let them scurry around, and people would be hysterical. Nothing would ever happen to these people. You have a criminal justice system which is broken down. You've got a city that gives away over 4.5 million needles a year. You've got drug-addicted people, mentally ill people that are on the streets. Nothing is being done. 10,000 people, George, according to the last estimate. That's a 30% increase in the past 2 years. It's an explosion. You've got a health crisis that is now really a serious one. You've had experts talk about the type of diseases that could be spread here. So it is a true disaster, and it's a sad thing because, as you talk about, just a tremendous city. Sad to see what's happened.
Yeah. I remember reading an article in which someone had argued that it was probably unconstitutional to hose off the feces of the sidewalks. And their argument was this crazy idea that and that it was also racially insensitive, because I guess at some point in the civil rights movement, some protesters were hosed. Well, and I'm like, okay, so you better not be cleaning your car, because if you use a hose to clean your car or your driveway, you're obviously a racist. And it's like this kind of craziness is where you get the results that we see now.
I agree. And it leads to the next point in the column, George, in that their board of supervisors passed this resolution about the certain types of preferred language that they're going to be using, and words like criminal and felon are going to be discontinued for phrases such as justice-involved individual. So the goal is to make these criminals feel better about themselves, so we don't call a criminal, and I think it just does nothing.
Aren't judges involved in justice? Are they also individuals involved in justice?
They should be, but in the column I talked about a judge who refused to put a habitual offender who would attack folks, a homeless person, refused to put him in prison. And I think it's a multifaceted problem, from the judges, to the politicians. And sadly, the people need to get involved and start electing some better leaders.
Yeah, that seems painfully self-evident. One of the problems that I see is when we have these discussions, a lot of times people act like, there's really nothing we can do because people have a constitutional right to sleep, on the streets and to, urinate and defecate in the streets. And I'm like, when did that become a constitutional right? And it's very odd to me that, and then you look at, and it's not even very kind, quite frankly, because if you look at what we see happening, the disease and the other problems that go with having 10,000 people defecating and urinating and then sleeping in the streets, it's like no decent population of people would ever say that's the compassionate solution, but that's what they're doing.
Well, and that is a good point, because San Francisco is losing business. In my research, I found all kinds of conventions that have now decided no longer to go to San Francisco, people that have told me that they've moved out, that they just couldn't take it any longer. So they're hurting themselves economically by not doing more about this issue. And as far as the civil rights of the people defecating, the people should have a right to be able to walk down a sidewalk without stepping in that, be able to walk down a sidewalk without being harassed by someone who is homeless. So they need to put their tax-paying citizens first and their businesses so that they can have a functioning city. This is really turning into something that is becoming a disaster. This is like a third world condition, George. In fact, it might be worse than third world conditions.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense to me. The other thing is they act as if somehow this is the compassionate thing to do, and I would argue that I don't understand what having homeless people sleep in feces and with urine running down the street and so forth. Excuse me, but I'm not seeing a lot of compassion in that. That doesn't sound like a compassionate solution. So it seems to me that everyone's losing here.
Everyone.
I don't see anyone winning. Sometimes we have things where there's winners and losers. There's just losers here. That's it. Everyone becomes a loser.
In fact, George, I heard from some progressives in San Francisco who said that they're even appalled by what is going on. So I don't even think the progressives are winning. The people that have this very tolerant attitude, they realize that they have got a true disaster on their hands. And, I cited a study in there that they went around downtown San Francisco and they located hundreds of piles of poo plus hundreds of spent needles on the street, because they're giving away all these needles for people that are drug addicted. And back in 2014, they lessened the penalties for a variety of crimes, including illegal drugs. So you've got
we're talking about justice-involved people here.
I'm sorry. Yes, justice-involved individuals, correct, who are littering and creating a health hazard. And it could be. something that the World Health Organization might need to take a look at if this thing could possibly spread. So I think this has got to be a real priority for the people in that region to do something about it. But then you go down to Los Angeles, and they have 60,000 homeless in Los Angeles County. You go up to Seattle, and it's
and they have typhus breaking out, a disease that was essentially banished in the 19th century. Well, and now it's making a comeback.
Making a comeback a lot, along with a lot of other very serious diseases. So this to me is something that, even though, California is a far left state, is a super liberal state, as an American, I'm very concerned about the people there. And I think we should, keep this as a priority to do something about this so that we don't see other cities going down the same path. But I look across the country, George, and I see a lot of urban areas led by liberals that have failed policies, and the people there are living in disaster areas, whether it's homelessness or crime or poverty or blight or drug addiction. The model's not working.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Jeff, we are up against the break, so we're going to take a quick break here, but I'm glad you can stick through the break because I know that Sharron's got lots more to ask about. This is an immensely interesting topic and one that's obviously important because it's not just San Francisco. It really is spreading all over it. Baltimore, you name it, it's everywhere. But I want to remind our listeners, you're listening to Conservative Commandos on the Conservative Commandos radio network, which of course is broadcast from sea to shining sea all over this great country. And those of you who are watching the Conservative Commandos, you're doing it on the AUN TV network. We appreciate you being there, unless of course you've gone online, in which case, thanks to Al Gore's amazing internet, everyone except for probably the Chinese, the North Koreans, and the Iranians can tune in as well. So we truly are everywhere, and you can check out our website, ccrshow.com. That's where you can get rebroadcast to either view or to listen to. But don't go away. Jeff and Sharron and I will be right back.
Have you been leasing a property for your business or renting storage space? Are you tired of paying rent year after year? Call the experts at General Steel to own a building at up to 30% off now.
I'd been renting a building and paying someone else's mortgage, but General Steel showed me how I could own a space tailored to the needs of my business and for less than renting.
Call General Steel now at the number on your screen for our current building specials and to price your metal building system today.
My building's the dream I've had since finishing my house 14 years ago. I've been using it for a garage, workshop, and storage area for my tools and equipment, and I can't believe how great it turned out.
The economy is improving and the price of steel is expected to rise. Stop waiting. It could cost you thousands. Call General Steel now to see how you can own for less than you thought. Stop waiting to start your business or expand your operation. Call General Steel now.
Call 877-484-7002.
Everybody wants cheap airfare, but where do you find it? You call low-cost airlines. Their prices are direct from the airlines, and they're so low you can't find these fares published anywhere. They specialize in cheap flights, discount hotel rooms, cheap car rental rates, and great package deals anywhere around the world. Wherever you want to go, they can help you get there cheaply and with a best price guarantee. If you want the lowest prices on your airline tickets or other travel services, call now. That's right, call. That's the only way to get these rates. Experts are standing by 24/7 to get you the cheapest airfare and hotel rates available. So don't wait. Call right now for the lowest travel prices anywhere and for great last-minute travel deals too.
Call 888-431-0562. That's 888-431-0562. 888-431-0562. 888-431-0562.
Friend, do you remember when it felt good to withdraw your cash from the bank to expand a business, go on vacation, or buy a new car? Well, today, withdrawing your own cash has become a very risky business, according to The Secret War, a shocking new research report. I just read it. And folks, I was amazed to learn why banks are now required to spy on us for the government and then report any suspicious or unusual behavior. I suggest you get The Secret War free. Just call the number on the screen, no charge, from the folks at Swiss America. And get this, did you know simply spending cash today may be enough to have you branded as a potential criminal? That's right. The new war on cash is really a war against all freedom-loving Americans. The secret war is yours free, so call the number on the screen and you can tell them Pat Boone gave you the number.
Crouere, thanks for watching the Jeff Crouere YouTube channel. Do you know what's going on all across the country? We have a crisis, especially in our urban areas. What is going on is the homeless population is skyrocketing. Let's look at what some of these big cities are doing. LA has got 60,000 homeless people. San Francisco, tens of thousands of homeless. New York's got almost 80,000 homeless. What is one thing that really all these cities have in common? They're run by liberal Democrats, okay? And they're doing nothing about the problem. They talk about maybe housing, but they're not looking at the underlying cause of what is going on the streets. Dr. Drew Prinsky, who's no conservative, but he's someone that cares about his city of LA, says that things are so bad in Los Angeles that we could soon see the bubonic plague. We already have seen typhus. We've already have seen other diseases such as tuberculosis. And this problem is just going to get worse when you have the influx of illegals coming in and the Democrats want to do nothing about it. So they don't want to do anything about the homeless problem, don't want to do anything about the illegals that are coming in there. And when these diseases start to spread, it's going to impact people in other parts of the country. When you look at all the top homeless cities in America, they're all run by liberals. They're not doing what they can to make those cities livable. Unfortunately, it's not just homelessness that is really the problem in these cities. Also, you see massive crime problems. Look at Chicago, where you have 50, 60, 70 shot in a weekend. That's, of course, run by a liberal Democrat. So you have the problems of crime and homelessness and disease. In San Francisco, it's so bad that they're defecating in the streets. And of course, the leadership, their solution is to go around with a pooper scooper. They don't really want to solve the problems. So I think America really needs to look at the liberal solutions to our urban areas and how they're failing desperately. And this is an opportunity as we have an election coming up to maybe put some new leadership in charge so that we can solve some of these problems so the problems of our urban areas don't spread across America. And that should be an issue that we're looking at as we get ready for the next election. I'm Jeff Crouere. Thanks for watching.
Welcome back, listeners. Welcome back to Conservative Commandos radio show. And now you can watch us on the AUN TV network in San Francisco, San Rafael, Marin, North Bay, San Jose, Silicon Valley, San Rosa, Wine Country, Redding, Chico, Sacramento, and soon to come in Nevada, Carson City, Reno, and Lake Tahoe. We've been talking with our guest, Jeff Crouere, who is a political columnist, the author of America's Last Chance, and provides regular commentaries on the Jeff Crouere YouTube channel. And he joins us as a conservative commando on the AUN TV network. Thanks for staying through the break, Jeff. I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you, Sharon. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure. It's always a pleasure to listen to your YouTube channel commentaries. We put those up on the AUN TV network so that all of the viewers in Northern California can see them. So I hope they're watching this one because, you know, I'm not that far. Driving from San Francisco here in Reno, we not only know about this problem, but some of it drifts across the Sierras to us because not only are the residents escaping, but some of the homeless are escaping, and we find them here in our city as well. So you're right, it's spreading. I was glad to see you talk so much about the increase. Tell us, you said it says in your article, 10,000 homeless people living in San Francisco, but that's a shocking 30% increase in just 2 years. What's going, you know, I don't get it. We see them fleeing, we see the residents fleeing, but yet more of the homeless are coming, or are more people homeless? What's going on?
I think what's going on is that because their attitude has been so lax, that homeless that are maybe being forced out of other areas are gravitating towards San Francisco because they find that to be a conducive environment for the homeless, because all these tents are set up there. They're operating there without much interference from city officials. So it's like a magnet for the homeless. And that's what the residents are telling me. They're telling me that people are coming there in big numbers. Nothing is being done about it. So that they are very upset that there's no action. And I think part of it stems back, Sharron, to the 2014 bill that they passed, Proposition 47, which really lessened the penalties for many crimes, including illegal drugs. And I think that has also created a situation where you have some offenders, some justice-involved individuals that are on the streets in San Francisco. They're not behind bars. It's a permissive attitude toward crime, permissive attitude toward homelessness. And it's not very conducive for doing business, for going there, for traveling, for having conventions. And that's why they're losing some.
Well, it doesn't seem like a new phenomena, really, for San Francisco. I remember the 60s. Are you going to San Francisco? Be sure to wear some flowers in your hair. Haight-Ashbury. I mean, they really encouraged this culture from that point on, and it seems like that's the ruling class now. But I was wondering about this next statement in your article. For example, a yearly income of over $117,000 for family of 4 is not enough to survive in San Francisco. So where are these folks going? You know, I mean, the median income across the United States is way less than that, and yet you can't survive on $117,000 a year. Are they leaving California, or are they going on the streets too?
Well, I think it's a mix, Sharron. I think it's a mix. And what San Francisco has done is they've attracted a lot of high-tech businesses. Corporate headquarters have moved there. The uber rich are doing very well. And what they're doing is they're driving up the prices for the housing stock. So you have to make a phenomenal income to be able just to survive out there. Many people who don't, sort of your working class, many of those folks are being forced out or sadly forced onto the streets because they can't afford the housing there. So it's a tale of two cities. You've got a very, very successful, super rich, and then you've got a struggling middle class and a poverty rate that is growing. So it's a problem, a real problem, and that's what the people there are telling me, that is getting worse. It's not getting better.
Well, we're hearing that too, and of course it's quite concerning for the rest of us. You talk about this being Orwell. You know, we were made to read those kinds of books when I was in high school, and now we're watching that actually coming to life. Talk about some of the Orwellian things that you see.
Well, when we can't be straight and be truthful in our language, when we have to be concerned about the words we use and to use government-approved words, then I think that our freedoms are being limited. I mean, I think that's an attack on our language. I think that is a lot of window dressing. They're trying to feel good about themselves so that they're not offending any criminals, justice-involved individuals, yet they don't seem to see the irony in the fact that their crime rate is going up, their homelessness rate is going up, their conventions are leaving, the streets are a total mess, but they can just feel good about themselves about the words they use. I mean, it is really insane. So it, to me, has been a big topic on my program when the whole Board of Supervisors decision came out. I didn't have one person, and all the folks who called, Sharron, who thought it was a good idea to change the language. They all thought it was ridiculous.
Well, the other thing I liked about your article is you name names, because we're always wondering, who are those guys? And you talk about a homeless man, Austin Vincent, with a record of assault and attempted robbery, who was released by a Superior Court Judge, Superior Court Judge Christine Van Aken. And there was an uproar from the public. They thought that was ridiculous that she would release him. So what'd she do?
Well, after multiple offenses, after this guy became a big public story, after a lot of pressure was put on, she decided to get tough, Sharron, and she decided to put an ankle monitor on him. So he didn't have to go to prison. He wound up getting an ankle monitor. Yet there was another case soon after that that was exposed to the public of this guy committing another assault. So this is a habitual criminal that the legal authorities in San Francisco refused to do anything about and put behind bars. Maybe they feel compassion because he's quote unquote homeless.
Two ankle monitors next time.
Yeah. But you know who I feel compassionate for, folks? The victims. And that seems to be what's overlooked in all of this. I mean, we're all worried about the feelings of the criminals. We want to make sure that they're coddled. Let the homeless defecate everywhere they want to defecate. But what about the folks that are the taxpayers, the people that are, working hard every day? Where's the consideration for those people?
Well, we're right up against a hard break, Jeff Crouere, but we'd like you to tell our listeners how they can follow you, be your friend, get your articles, read your book.
Yes, and thank you, Sharron. I'd love for people to do that. I've got a website, which is just my name, jeffcrouere.com, and on that, I've got my latest video, which is on my YouTube channel that's linked to on the website. Also, information about my book, my radio and TV show, column. So it's a good resource for people that can catch up on a lot of different things that I'm doing. And I certainly appreciate the opportunity. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Jeff Crouere. Take care and God bless. We are coming to you from the Conservative Commandos Radio Network studios and around the world on the internet with TalkStream Live, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, American Political Radio, Leading Edge Radio Network, and AM/FM 24/7. And of course, you can see us on the AUN TV network in Northern California. I'm Sharron Angle here with my co-host, George Landrith, and we'll be right back after these messages.
Have you been leasing a property for your business or renting storage space? Are you tired of paying rent year after year? Call the experts at General Steel to own a building at up to 30% off now.
I'd been renting a building and paying someone else's mortgage, but General Steel showed me how I could own a space tailored to the needs of my business and for less than renting.
Call General Steel now at the number on your screen for our current building specials and to price your metal building system today.
My building's the dream I've had since finishing my house 14 years ago. I've been using it for a garage, workshop, and storage area for my tools and equipment, and I can't believe how great it turned out.
The economy is improving and the price of steel is expected to rise. Stop waiting. It could cost you thousands. Call General Steel now to see how you can own for less than you thought. Stop waiting to start your business or expand your operation. Call General Steel now.
Call 877-484-7002.
Everybody wants cheap airfare, but where do you find it? You call low-cost airlines. Their prices are direct from the airlines, and they're so low you can't find these fares published anywhere. They specialize in cheap flights, discount hotel rooms, cheap car rental rates, and great package deals anywhere around the world. Wherever you want to go, they can help you get there cheaply and with a best price guarantee. If you want the lowest prices on your airline tickets or other travel services, call now. That's right, call. That's the only way to get these rates. Experts are standing by 24/7 to get you the cheapest airfare and hotel rates available. So don't wait. Call right now for the lowest travel prices anywhere and for great last-minute travel deals too.
Call 888-431-0562. That's 888-431-0562. 888-431-0562. 888-431-0562.
Friend, do you remember when it felt good to withdraw your cash from the bank to expand a business, go on vacation, or buy a new car? Well, today, withdrawing your own cash has become a very risky business, according to The Secret War, a shocking new research report. I just read it. And folks, I was amazed to learn why banks are now required to spy on us for the government and then report any suspicious or unusual behavior. I suggest you get The Secret War free. Just call the number on the screen, no charge, from the folks at Swiss America. And get this, did you know simply spending cash today may be enough to have you branded as a potential criminal? That's right. The new war on cash is really a war against all freedom-loving Americans. The Secret War is yours free, so call the number on the screen and you can tell them Pat Boone gave you the number.
Dish TV is better than cable TV. Here's why. Dish has the nation's lowest TV price, along with an award-winning DVR that can skip commercials, record 8 shows at once, and get access to thousands of movies at your fingertips. Cable simply can't even compare. So the smart choice is to cut the cable and get Dish. Plus, you get all these great TV features, free HD DVR upgrade, free installation, and free movie channels. Say goodbye to cable and get more with Dish TV. 877-290-7764, 877-290-7764. As an added bonus, you can switch to Dish now and receive a $50 Visa gift card. So call now and get Dish TV. Call 877-290-7764, 877-290-7764. That's 877-290-7764. Limited time offer, 24-month commitment and credit qualification required. Cancellation fee, monthly equipment fees, and other restrictions apply. Promotion can change at any time.
Welcome back, listeners. Thank you for staying with us through that break. If you would like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show, please check out our website, ccrshow.com, ccrshow.com. Also, please like us, friend us, and follow us on Facebook and Twitter. George, we have our next guest with us. Would you please introduce him?
Absolutely. Indeed we do. We have John O'Connor. Now, John is a respected and experienced trial lawyer. He practices in San Francisco. He's done that since the early 70s. He's tried cases in state and federal court throughout the country. He served as the Assistant U.S. Attorney in Northern California. He has represented the United States in criminal and civil cases. And he's had some very interesting assignments throughout his career. For example, he has represented the government when they were involved with the arguments and conflicts with the OPEC oil embargo of the 70s. He has also written Fifth Amendment and State of Mind briefs, if you remember the Patricia Hearst case. And then, of course, he has represented the FDIC, the FSLC, and the RTC during the savings and loans crisis of the late 80s and early 1990s. He's really been involved in a lot of different, very interesting tobacco litigation, even in the NBA, some litigation. But one of it, and what we want to talk about today, and I think this will be relevant, he has represented Mark Felt, who, of course, is famous because he was identified later as Deep Throat in the Watergate scandal and all those proceedings. So with that, John, welcome to the Conservative Commandos. We're glad you're here.
Good to be here, George. Looking forward to it.
Now, you've got an upcoming book, and it looks very interesting to me, and it's on, in some respects, it's on Watergate, but it's actually not the stereotypical story about the break-in at the Watergate. It's more about the way the Washington Post betrayed Mark Felt and covered up certain aspects of Watergate. So let's jump into that, because maybe you should also just tell us why you wrote the book, but then let's talk about some of the substance and why folks should read it. Because I think it would be a mistake for people to assume, oh, this is something that happened, in the 70s that doesn't really concern me, so I don't want to read it. This is something that actually has a lot of implication, and it may become when the problems we see in the media started to become more apparent.
Yeah, George. Well, of course, I think the template for today's investigative reporting, as all recognize, is Watergate itself. It was the ideal, and I always thought it was the ideal example of effective and honest investigative reporting. Was always proud, at least proud for the last 17 years that I represented Mark Felt. I had figured out his identity back in the 70s, and just by happenstance met him in 2002 and started questioning him about whether he wanted to admit he was Deep Throat and come out. So I've been involved in this for quite a while, and really since I was an assistant U.S. attorney in the 70s. But the reason I think this book is so important is precisely because Watergate coverage is the template for today's media coverage. And rather than as I always thought, it being the golden exception to the terrible rule of modern biased journalism. It turns out, in my view, that it was the precursor to what's happening today. It really gives the template as to biased investigative journalism. And unfortunately, that's what we've got today, and we see it in the Russiagate coverage, for example. And I've just written an article about that, and it really is an attempted replay of Watergate.
Interesting. So your point is that Watergate had some of the same elements that we may be seeing now in the Rust investigation, where there's just a lot of, hooey being thrown around.
Yeah. Traditionally, George, as you know, and journalism should be about who, what, where, why, etc. And the readers or audience is supposed to decide the truth based upon these facts. When you start doing investigative journalism, that's journalism with an edge. It's with a target. And it's great if it's something like, for instance, the fellow who abused gymnasts. There's really only one side to that story. The Indianapolis Star did a great job of their investigative journalism in uncovering that, and that's what we would hope it would be. But when you're applying investigative journalism to things that have two sides, for instance, political matters, the tendency is, if you're an investigative journalist, you have a target. You want to hit the target. You don't want to just tell people what's happening. You want to target. And because of that, the tendency is to omit facts that are inconvenient, that are unfavorable to you. And that's what I see. And I see that happening in Watergate. And I go through these techniques and how Watergate was really covered up, in essence. Nixon was guilty, no doubt about his role in the cover-up. But his role was far different than has been was really covered at the time. And now today we have Russiagate, where once again certain facts are covered up because, gee, if we told those facts, the public would have a more balanced view of what really happened. And we would say at the beginning, well, maybe Russiagate isn't a real conspiracy. Maybe, just maybe, this is a lot of hooey, and maybe we should be looking elsewhere, such as at the intelligence agencies that were setting up the president. Now we've been diverted by the shiny object of investigative reporting to say, oh my gosh, the president's committing treason. He might cut off the power with Putin in North Dakota, I think one host said. He's really going to do a lot of things to this country that would be terrible and treasonous. And yet the media had facts. At least anybody with a seventh grade education should have been able in the major media to state those facts. And if they did so dispassionately, we'd all be better off.
Well, that's a good point. Dispassionately would be nice if we could just get someone to tell what actually happened, what you can verify happened, and let us decide what it all means. But for the last several years, we've just been listening to everybody tell us that in some cases, we have people come right out and say that they think that Donald Trump, and we've had members of Congress tell us that the evidence will show that Donald Trump is an operative for the Russians. And it's just like, you got to be kidding me, It's crazy. I mean, there's just no, the idea that they can make these kinds of just flamboyantly silly allegations and it passes for journalism is a little scary. Let's get back to your book, Postgate. The idea is, instead of Watergate, Postgate, I assume reference to the Washington Post. What are some of the ways they covered up things? What are some of those? We probably got about a minute and a half just to tease us a little bit.
But let me just set the stage. 4 of the 5 burglars that were caught were Cuban individuals that had been involved in the Bay of Pigs, a CIA operation. The 5th person there was one of their supervisors in the Bay of Pigs. That 5th person was also in charge for the CIA of preparing for a second launch on Cuba that never eventuated. And he had recently retired from the CIA right about the same time that Howard Hunt had retired from the CIA, and gosh golly, he happened to get a job in the White House while he's working part-time for an outfit across the street that should have been known to the Washington Post was the CIA cover company. Now, if it looks like a duck, waddles like a duck, quacks like a duck, you think maybe the CIA's the duck. But the Washington Post steered us all away from that. The company across the street, which was a PR company, well, gee, they did a little work for the CIA way back in the 60s. They did an advertising campaign, but they really weren't involved with CIA. The head of that company, it was really a Nixon fundraiser, we're told. Nixon, Nixon, Nixon. All these people were connected to Nixon. And so I'm not saying the White House, lower level people in the White House weren't involved because they could provide the funding. They got sort of suckered into this by Hunt, who had infiltrated, was part of the White House. He was part of the White House, so yes, the White House was involved. So there's no doubt about it, and Nixon didn't know what the heck had happened and covered it up. But the CIA was deeply involved, and the Post knew it. But what the Post did is, by omission and commission, they took us away from that side of the story, which would have made a fascinating story for all of us. And we would have had not only a discussion about executive power and the misuse of it, or not, but also about our intelligence agencies and their abuse of power. Now, guys, what happened just recently? What lesson did we not learn in Watergate that has come back to haunt us today? Intelligence agencies going beyond what they should be doing. And now here we are. The chickens are coming home to roost, as Reverend Wright says, but not in the way he thought. So that's just one example of how, not only how Watergate was covered up as it would be today, but how we are harvesting the rotten fruit of that.
Absolutely. Makes a lot of sense. Well, we're up against the break, John, so we'll come back. There's lots more to talk about. I know Sharron will have questions, and we'll continue this conversation. Just to remind our listeners and our viewers, you're listening to Conservative Commandos, you're watching the Conservative Commandos. I'm George Landrith. She is Sharron Angle, and of course, he is John O'Connor. We will be right back. Don't go away.
Have you been leasing a property for your business or renting storage space? Are you tired of paying rent year after year? Call the experts at General Steel to own a building at up to 30% off now.
I'd been renting a building and paying someone else's mortgage, but General Steel showed me how I could own a space tailored to the needs of my business and for less than renting.
Call General Steel now at the number on your screen for our current building specials and to price your metal building system today.
My building's the dream I've had since finishing my house 14 years ago. I've been using it for a garage, workshop, and storage area for my tools and equipment, and I can't believe how great it turned out.
The economy is improving and the price of steel is expected to rise. Stop waiting. It could cost you thousands. Call General Steel now to see how you can own for less than you thought. Stop waiting to start your business or expand your operation. Call General Steel now.
Call 877-484-7002.
Everybody wants cheap airfare, but where do you find it? You call low-cost airlines. Their prices are direct from the airlines, and they're so low you can't find these fares published anywhere. They specialize in cheap flights, discount hotel rooms, cheap car rental rates, and great package deals anywhere around the world. Wherever you want to go, they can help you get there cheaply and with a best price guarantee. If you want the lowest prices on your airline tickets or other travel services, call now. That's right, call. That's the only way to get these rates. Experts are standing by 24/7 to get you the cheapest airfare and hotel rates available. So don't wait. Call right now for the lowest travel prices anywhere and for great last-minute travel deals too.
Call 888-431-0562. That's 888-431-0562. 888-431-0562. 888-431-0562.
Friend, do you remember when it felt good to withdraw your cash from the bank to expand a business, go on vacation, or buy a new car? Well, today, withdrawing your own cash has become a very risky business, according to The Secret War, a shocking new research report. I just read it. And folks, I was amazed to learn why banks are now required to spy on us for the government and then report any suspicious or unusual behavior. I suggest you get The Secret War free Just call the number on the screen, no charge, from the folks at Swiss America. And get this, did you know simply spending cash today may be enough to have you branded as a potential criminal? That's right. The new war on cash is really a war against all freedom-loving Americans. The secret war is yours free, so call the number on the screen and you can tell them Pat Boone gave you the number.
Welcome back, listeners. Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos radio show. I'm Sharron Angle, and my co-host is George Landrith. We've been talking with our guest here at the Conservative Commandos radio network. Our guest is John Connor. He is the author of Postgate, How the Washington Post Betrayed Deep Throat, Covered Up Watergate, and began today's partisan advocacy journalism. He's also the author of an article, Blown Coverage, How the Media Was So Badly Decked in Russiagate. And we want to welcome you back. Thanks for staying through this break with us, John. I do have questions for you. I was very interested, of course, in Watergate. We all lived through that, saw a president actually resign from office because of it. And I think you're right. I think that they were hoping that we could have a Russiagate here in order to get Trump to resign. Do you think that's the whole of it, isn't it?
Sure. And remember how the clever Comey started the Mueller investigation is he premised it on obstruction of justice. I think Comey knew that there was no real Russiagate. He had enough knowledge to know that. Now, did he tell us that? No. But he had already been hooking up a Russiagate investigation and leaking things to the press through James Clapper and leaking this ridiculous Pulp Fiction Steele dossier, which is almost amusing for any critical reader. Okay, but this amusingly Pulp Fiction dossier, and I think he thought, like Watergate, that the president would trip up and lie someplace or cover up a fact. And by gosh, human nature is no one wants to put a bad foot forward, even if it's not a criminal foot. And he was hoping that that would happen as Nixon did it. And so it is very much the same template. He also was clever enough to know that the press would eat this up with a spoon. This is just made, the narrative is made for TV. Disliked president, at least in some quarters. Let's depose him because he's immoral. And that's the way the template started right from the beginning. Let's replay Watergate. Now notice, it's no, Sharron, you notice that in the recent hearings with Jerry Nadler, his first witness was who? John Dean. In case we all missed it, let's tell everybody how this is just like Watergate. And of course, it is just like Watergate in my view, in a way. Now, I don't think President Trump, got caught up. Thank God for his lawyers. President Nixon had John Dean, who probably didn't help him too much. President Trump had better lawyers like Don McGahn, and he actually kept him out of trouble rather than getting him into trouble, as John Dean did. But with that slight distinction, things are quite similar. So I think that the whole idea is let's get the president, let's trap him into something with cooperative journalism. And let's just keep it up, keep up the drumbeat, and that's what happens. Notice this. Let me give you just a little sample of this. How did they get Mike Flynn? How did they get General Flynn? They got him by suggesting that maybe he's guilty of a Logan Act violation, which literally hasn't been prosecuted in 200 years. So people start chirping Logan Act, Logan Act, Logan Act, and guess what? General Flynn lies. Now, it wasn't a terribly big lie, but I suppose he did not tell the truth about Ambassador Kislyk. But why did he do that? Because human nature being what it is, people will dissemble. People will not always put a bad foot forward. But that's what Comey knew would happen, and he got General Flynn. He almost got President Trump. And it's a little bit scary because what happens is this all works with the complicit media. Hillary Clinton was not put in under any of that pressure for the Uranium One thing or for the emails, because the press was so compliant. There was no pressure on her. So, and the authorities did not aggressively question her. And so she's not going to obstruct or lie, I assume, even though she said some things on not under oath, which may not have been factual. So we have a two-sided system as well, because, as I say, in investigative journalism, there's a target. And depending upon the bias of the media, you target one person or the other, one party or the other. And I suppose if conservatives had control of all the airwaves, maybe that would be happening now too. I don't know, but that's speculative. But certainly right now, we see what's happened. And all the publicity went away. Let me give you an example, Sharron, in this recent Russiagate thing. The publicity was that George Papadopoulos conspired with this Russian agent. I think just a few months ago, James Comey said it was a Russian agent that he approached him in London, or he approached Joseph Mifsud. If you're 12 years old and know how to turn on a computer and you can read, you can see that Joseph Mifsud was deeply connected to Western intelligence. He taught class with the chief security vetter for the British intelligence named Claire Smith. Anybody could find that out. It'd take you about 5 minutes. If he's teaching class with Claire Smith for 12 years, whose job it is to determine who's a spy and who's not, I would bet you that Joseph Mifsud is Western intelligence. But he's certainly not a Russian asset. But were we told any of that? You won't find it anywhere. Still today, people are saying, oh, this is a Russian agent. And so the reporting is clearly biased. The truth about Sergei Millian is supposedly the guy who knew about the prostitutes in Moscow and all that. A brief look at him would have seen that he's a joke. But the public isn't told that. So that's what's going on, and it's really a shame, because think about it, the last 2 years, our whole civic energy has been tied up in a phony investigation. And our conversation is toxic. I talk to my friends who are of good faith. They mean well. They look at their outlets, and they have a view of one way of the world. And if I say anything that is contrary, I've just learned not to do it because I get yelled at. And isn't that too bad that our conversation has become so toxic? And I don't blame people. I don't blame people who react to me that way, because I might as well have horns on my head, So, and I hope part of the purpose of my book is to try to get us to a more factual, fact-based discussion where we can actually talk back and forth with one another about what the truth is and what it is not. And yet that doesn't seem to be happening yet. And maybe I'm naive, but I think maybe we can get there.
Well, I hope you're right. But, you mentioned the clown trifecta. I thought that was quite an interesting descriptor of three players that we just don't hear about. And yet this case is really built up around those three players, isn't it?
Yeah. There were three people, my gosh, John Brennan in the CIA and his cohort in British intelligence, I think his name's Robert Hannigan. They started this. The Steele dossier happens to be what? Written by an ex-CIA agent and an ex-MI6 agent from British intelligence. And then they have three people then come in and besiege people like George Papadopoulos, especially in London, where the CIA has operational authority. The CIA can't operate in the country. But we're not told that all these people are clear setups. They're intelligence agency setups. Steele and Nellie Orr are intelligence agency setups. You have to be an idiot not to see that. But are we told any of that? Are we told that that this is happening? No. And as a consequence, we're all led down the primrose path, and let's all impeach Donald Trump. And is this really good for our country? Really?
Not at all. Not at all. So an investigation is really a setup, is what you're talking about, and you really have uncovered the facts for us. We are right up against a hard break. John, can you tell our listeners how they can friend you, follow you, find your book, find your articles?
Okay, sure. My Twitter handle, I just got on Twitter, is the, with the capital T, the capital J John, D, capital D, capital O, capital C, Connor. That's OCONNOR, the John D. O'Connor. The book is to be found at postgatebook.com, postgatebook.com. The name of the book is Postgate, postgatebook.com. And it can be found on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and I hope that some of your audience can pre-order so that we can start this discussion and get some momentum going here. God knows I'm not doing this for the money, Sharron. I might hope to get out of the hole here, but that's about it. But I enjoy this, and I think it's a worthy cause here.
Well, thank you so much for being our guest here, John. Take care and God bless.
Thanks, Sharron.
And we are coming to you from the Conservative Commandos Radio Network studios. George Landrith and I will be right back with more.
AM/FM 24/7 Roku channel broadcasts all of our shows on demand. To ensure reliability, we store and stream our content on the same servers as Netflix and Amazon. Our Roku channel is free to use, and anyone owning one of the more than 10 million Roku devices can watch our channel at no cost whatsoever. If you have a television show or are thinking about producing a show, you can be a part of AM/FM 24/7's Roku channel. Watch our great shows on your Roku device. It's free and more reliable than cable TV. Are you stuck with a timeshare? Did you attend the presentation and were seduced and enticed into buying that great vacation and investment? Now you're in the terrible position of trying to figure out a way to get out of that mess. You're not alone. For over 15 years, BuyYourTimeshare.com has been helping people like yourself get out of timeshare ownership. The fact is, there is no resale market. Unscrupulous telemarketers call you and say they have buyers waiting, and the next thing that happens is you give them hundreds of dollars for an ad, and you'll never hear from them again. Another fact is that an identical timeshare to yours is being offered on eBay for $1, and no one is buying it. If you want out of your timeshare, I urge you to go to BuyYourTimeshare.com or call them at 877-94-HELP-ME. That number again is 877-94-HELP-ME. BuyYourTimeshare.com. That's BuyYourTimeshare.com. 877-94-HELP-ME.
Dish TV is better than cable TV. Here's why. Dish has the nation's lowest TV price, along with an award-winning DVR that can skip commercials, record 8 shows at once, and get access to thousands of movies at your fingertips. Cable simply can't even compare. So the smart choice is to cut the cable and get Dish. Plus, you get all these great TV features, free HD DVR upgrade, free installation, and free movie channels. Say goodbye to cable and get more with Dish TV. 877-290-7764, 877-290-7764. As an added bonus, you can switch to Dish now and receive a $50 Visa gift card. So call now and get Dish TV. Call 877-290-7764, 877-290-7764. That's 877-290-7764. Limited time offer, 24-month commitment and credit qualification required. Cancellation fee, monthly equipment fees, and other restrictions apply. Promotion can change at any time.
Welcome back, and thank you for listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show and watching us on AUN TV. George, would you tell our guests, thank you. Would you just kind of wrap it up for us?
Absolutely. We had some great guests today. We had Trey Kovacs from the Competitive Enterprise Institute talking about all the ways that unions are trying to take away freedom and liberty from workers. We talked with Jeff Crouere out of New Orleans. We're talking to him about what's going on in San Francisco and just kind of the fact that we have great cities that are basically falling into debris. And then we concluded with John O'Connor, an attorney out of San Francisco, interesting enough, who's got a great book coming out called Postgate. And interestingly, how he makes the analogies between Watergate and Russiagate, except for not in the way that CNN would do it. He points out that there is this concerted effort by the press to misrepresent the facts and to mislead the public. And he points out they even did it back in Watergate in some instances, and of course how it's been done now. So I'm really grateful that we have such great guests on Conservative Commandos because they make the show.
They do, but so do our co-hosts. Tell our listeners how they can follow you, George Landrith.
Oh, absolutely. I'm at Frontiers of Freedom, so our website is ff.org, 2 F's and then org with a dot in there. And then, of course, on Twitter you can follow me at G Landrith. That's Landrith. So Glandrith.
And I'm Sharron Angle. You can follow me at SharronAngle.com. And if you'd like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show, you can get it at our website, CCR Show. But for right now, we've got to run, we've got to go. Take care, God bless, and we'll see you tomorrow on TV and radio.